And Erica, what Andrea's talking about, if you have a family, you may have two undocumented parents who obviously are the legal guardians of, let's say, 2, 3, 4 American children. Add to that the fact that this child separation task force, we had already gone through this in the first Trump administration, that's now been disbanded by Trump. Do you believe there will be more family separations leading to this? I mean, apparently there are still 1,000 families still separated from the first time this happened.
Absolutely. I mean, that's going to happen. There's no question that there's going to be family separation. I don't think the president cares. I don't think his administration cares. I think what they want to do is to get as many people as possible to leave the country. And the reality is that it's not going to help anyone. They keep saying that it's going to help the economy. That is not true. We have seen over and over again that the labor of immigrants in this country is really, really valuable for our economy. And the fact is, family separation is a form of trauma. It is a form of telling basically American citizens in this country that their family doesn't matter, right? They can be separated from their parents, from the people they love, and it doesn't matter, right? And I will say, and the last thing I'll say here is that I know family separation. I know, my family left Mexico because of family, because we were victims of domestic violence, and we had no other choice but to leave to come to this country. And we didn't see our grandmother for many years. And our grandmother died. She passed away in Mexico, and we never, ever saw her again. I didn't see my grandmother for the last 10 years of her life. And it's a choice that shouldn't be a choice for anyone in this country, especially American citizens.
Yes, Erica, of course, it obviously is traumatic for you and traumatic to think that there are other families going through this again who will have to leave their families. I want to talk about those people still trying to get to the United States. I mean, Andrea, Trump signed an order that gives the military a role. We were just discussing it in this immigration enforcement. We saw at the border yesterday, I'm sure it's going on right now as well, that people were obviously distraught. They do not have these apps. There is no legal pathway to entry. Trump has now suspended this refugee resettlement. What do you believe will happen now? Because some people are saying that, look, if you're not going to give people a legal pathway to enter the country, they will, in danger to their own lives, continue to try and enter the United States illegally. What do you see happening there?
I often say that there is a push factor and a pull factor for immigration. The push factor is that people are pushed out because of persecution, violence, and they have to leave their country. And then also there's a pull factor, which is our economy's demand for workers. We have a low unemployment rate, and we need these workers. So there are this double whammy, this double factor where you're not going to stop people from coming. They will just come more dangerously and in more dangerous ways, and they may die trying. And many people do die trying every year. So with the CBP One app and all those appointments that were canceled yesterday afternoon, people had waited 6 to 10 months for those appointments. That was them doing it the legal way, waiting for their day to ask for asylum and be paroled into the United States. And when those appointments were held in the morning and then canceled in the afternoon, people who had the courage to do that risked kidnapping at the U.S.-Mexico border to go to those interviews, only to find out that their interviews had actually been canceled in the afternoon. So what you said is absolutely true, Paula. People will continue to come to the United States, and if they're not given a legal path to do so, they will do so in a more dangerous way to themselves and at higher risk to themselves because of the fact that they simply cannot live in their countries. People do not leave their homes, as the Somali poet said, unless their home is the mouth of a shark.
There are tough choices going on right now on all those border crossings. Erica, the last word to you. I don't have a lot of time left, but what would you like Americans who voted for Donald Trump and want to see more national security around immigration, what would you say to them?
That this is not the way to do it. I know they were sold this narrative that if we deport people who are in this country, like my family and many people in my community, that they will have a better life. That will not be the case. Your life will not be better by deporting people. Your life will be better by having a better government who actually cares about the working class, who actually cares about the American people. So we're not the villain, and I hope they understand that, and I hope they see that as Trump moves forward with his plan, that they see the reality of what's going to happen with people like myself and others in this country.
Argandio, thank you so much for sharing your personal story. And Andrea Martinez, we will continue to check in with you as the immigration picture here in the United States continues to change. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we turn now to Gaza, where the ceasefire, thankfully, is holding. Now, while families of the released Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners rejoice, celebrating a rare moment of hope in this bloody conflict inside Gaza, people are returning to the ruins of their lives. These images show the extent of the utter devastation. Don't even know what else to call it. 90% of the population has been forcibly displaced, and the majority of homes in the Strip have now been destroyed. Asma Mustafa is an English teacher in Gaza, and she joined me earlier to explain what everyday life is like there now and the importance of this so fragile and tentative truce. Asma, so good to see you again, and we, of course, are hearing about this mix of joy but also grief, of course, in Gaza. We have people celebrating, but it must be such a mix of emotions given so much has been lost in Gaza. Can you tell me just what this ceasefire means to you now?
Actually, I'm so happy to be live with you again because I have never imagined to be alive and one of the survivors of the genocide, because it was the most violent war I have ever witnessed in Gaza Strip. I have witnessed 7 wars before this, but no one was like this time. It continued for 15 months, and nobody knew before that it will stop one day. I'm afraid that I said one day, I told my mom that I am losing hope, Mommy. I am losing hope. At the time that the ceasefire agreement was announced in Qatar, I was so I was waiting eagerly, just like the other people all around the world. I know it was like a historical moment, and I suspected for the first time, is it going to be announced really, or it's going to fail like every time of negotiations? And finally, I have witnessed this moment. I cried. I couldn't stop my tears. It was like a waterfall, and I hugged my 2 daughters. I was so happy that the ceasefire finally was announced, and we survived. We really survived. But at the same time, I was so scared of the future, and I'm still so scared of the future and the shape of my life will be like if I return to the north. I know that the Jabalia camp houses are all destroyed totally or partly. And I don't know. I can't imagine the shape of my life. How would it be? Would it be in a tent for, how long, and how, so many questions still unclear and so ambiguous. The situation is still ambiguous, but the most achievement is that I'm still alive.
The survival is extraordinary for so many in Gaza. And of course, we hear in your voice the contradiction between that grief and that joy. And as you said, people do not understand if their homes are still standing. 90% of 2.1 million people, we want to repeat, in Gaza have been displaced from their homes. Some as many as 10 times or more. Can you tell us about your experience in the last 15 months? How many times have you had to move?
I was displaced 8 times, even sometimes 4 times of them. I was displaced from a humanitarian zone to another humanitarian zone under the Israeli army instructions. It was really, really hard for me to take my tent, to take my things under fire, and to leave immediately. Really, really, I didn't imagine to still alive. And at the same time, you have to save your children's life. That's the point. You have to take your own family members. You have to look around. Sometimes I didn't have this this choice to look behind and to see my mommy, how fast she is walking, okay? So many details. very hard experience, very hard. I think I am one of the traumatized people in Gaza, and those 2 millions are all traumatized. Everybody here is going to suffer much on the future, and we may not stand up very fast. No, this is not going to happen. Although Gaza is full of hope, our hearts is fulfilled with hope, but limited hope. Let me not exaggerate. I'm so honest. It's limited hope.
We certainly hear the hope in your voice and obviously the trepidation as well. I know your passion is to teach. I know you are a very dedicated English language teacher. Listen, you have told us before that during these hostilities, the displacement of schools